As we go through life, we will be involved in many conversations. It is common for people to assume that every question they are asked in a conversation is an honest question intended to elicit an honest answer. However, Jesus was involved in an incident which proves that sometimes people ask questions with evil intent. His wisdom in discerning the duplicity and maneuvering around it is a wisdom we should seek to emulate in our interactions with people. On one of the days shortly after Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, he was teaching the people in the temple. After sparring with the priests, scribes, and elders about authority, he began a parable about a man who planted a vineyard, rented it out, and went on a journey. At harvest time, the owner of the vineyard sent several slaves at different times to collect some of the produce, but each time the vine growers abused the slaves and did not send any produce. Now let's pick up reading at Luke 20, verse 13. Now the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." The owner of the vineyard represents God. The killing of the slaves represents the Israelite rebellion and mistreatment of God's prophets, which is recorded in the Old Testament. The son represents Jesus living on earth in the 1st century A.D. Verse 14. But when the vine growers saw him, they were reasoning with one another, saying, "This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance will be ours." The vine growers represent the Jewish leaders who conspired to kill Jesus. Verse 15. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine growers and will give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "May it never be." Giving the vineyard to others represents God working through Gentiles in the church age. The pronoun they refers to the people listening to Jesus. It would have included the religious leaders. Notice a statement at the end of the verse. They said, "May it never be." They objected to the message of Jesus' parable. They were claiming it was not possible that people would act that badly. Verse 17. But when Jesus looked at them, he said, "What then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected, this has become the chief cornerstone." Jesus quoted Psalm 118, verse 22. His point was the psalmist's statement about the rejected stone becoming the cornerstone was proof that people could act as badly as was portrayed in his parable. Verse 18. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, but on whoever it falls, it will scatter him like dust. And the scribes and the chief priests tried to lay hands on him that very hour, but they feared the people, for they understood that he spoke this parable against them. Think about 3 details in this passage. First, the words "very hour" tell us the religious leaders acted immediately. Second, the word "feared" tells us the religious leaders were constrained and could not do what they wanted to do. Third, the word "understood" indicates the religious leaders got the message and knew what Jesus was saying about them. Verse 20. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous so that they might catch him in some statement in order to deliver him to the rule and the authority of the governor. The word "watched" communicates the intrigue that was taking place. The words "spies" and "pretended" reveal the deception that was employed by the religious leaders. The words "catch" and "deliver" tell us the true intent of the Jewish authorities. Verse 21. And they questioned him, saying, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach correctly, and you are not partial to any, but teach the way of God in truth." This is a good example of false and deceitful flattery. Verse 22. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? If Jesus would have said no, then the Jewish leaders would have had grounds to accuse Jesus of rebellion against Rome and report him to the Roman authorities. Then the Romans would take care of their problem. If Jesus would have said yes, then the Jewish leaders could have used that to turn the Jewish people against Jesus because the Jews did not like living under the rule of Rome. Verse 23. But Jesus perceived their craftiness and said to them, the words perceived and craftiness indicate Jesus grasped that the question was a trap. Verse 24. Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? They said, Caesar's. And he said to them, Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. This was a brilliant and wise answer. He refused to answer the question, but he did it in such a way that they could not accuse him of refusing to answer their question. Verse 26. And they were unable to catch him in a word in the presence of the people, and marveling at his answer, they became silent. Notice the phrase, in the presence of the people. The intent was to trip Jesus in front of the crowds so that the crowds would turn against Jesus. As we go through life, we will be involved in many conversations. It may be a discussion about business, sports, religion, or something else. It is common for people to assume that every question they are asked is an honest question intended to elicit an honest answer. However, this incident involving Jesus proves that sometimes people ask questions with evil intent. A child may ask a question with the intent of proving parental favoritism. A corrupt law enforcement officer may ask a question that is meant to trap an innocent person into incriminating themselves. An atheist may ask a question that is designed to humiliate a believer. Jesus perceived the evil intent of the Jewish leaders and used his wisdom to escape the trap. So too, we need to be wise and understand that sometimes we need to avoid answering a question because there are bad intentions behind the question. Verse 27. Now some of the Sadducees, who say that there is no resurrection, came to him. The phrase in parentheses is important. The Sadducees did not believe there is life after death. Verse 28. And they questioned him, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, having a wife, and he is childless, his brother should marry the wife and raise up seed for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers, and the first married a wife and died childless. And the second, and the third married her, and in the same way all 7 died, leaving no children. Finally the woman died also. Therefore, this woman, in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For all 7 had her as a wife. The Sadducees did not believe in life after death. They thought the absurdity of their scenario would prove that life after death is absurd. Verse 34. And Jesus said to them, The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to attain to that age and the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. For they cannot even die any more, because they are like angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. Jesus pointed out the error of their question. People do not marry after the resurrection. Therefore, the scenario they presented by the Sadducees cannot take place. The fact that humans are no longer male and female after life on earth not only allows for the existence of the resurrection, it also makes the gender roles on earth more palatable. God gave men the positions of authority in the family and church. This makes women feel inferior. However, the inferiority, if it is correct to look at it as inferior, only lasts during life on earth. After the resurrection, gender will not exist, and so the supposed inferiority will no longer exist either. As we go through life, we will be involved in many conversations. It may be a discussion about business, sports, religion, or something else. It is common for people to assume that every question they are asked is an honest question intended to elicit an honest answer. However, this incident involving Jesus proves that sometimes people ask questions with evil intent. Jesus perceived the evil intent of the Jewish leaders and used his wisdom to escape the trap. So too, we need to be wise and understand that sometimes we need to avoid answering a question because there are bad intentions behind the question. Thanks for visiting Bible Mountain. If you have already joined my email list, thank you, and please tell others about Bible Mountain. If you have not joined my email list yet, please do so now. In order to join, go to BibleMountain.com, click on subscribe, and that will take you to a page where you can sign up. Your email address will not be sold nor given away. Once again, thanks for visiting Bible Mountain.